So let us try to understand first this one. So I create machines, virtual machines in a specific virtual network, and I am saying here VNet as VNet South India, VNet S India, VNet South India. I'm creating the virtual network in South India. Now, if I have even 10 different virtual machines or 100 different virtual machines, they can communicate with each other. And when I say communicate with each other, inside, because if you don't have any network security groups which are saying that uh, the virtual network to inside the virtual network, the machines should not be connecting with each other, then the machines can't communicate. But most of the scenarios in your organization within the network we can connect with each other machines. That's how the networking is being designed. Only for critical workloads like web servers, front-end servers, and the database, specifically the database, they don't allow even within the network to communicate with that. Okay, suppose if you are a banking system and you have a machine and which holds the data of the users and everything, even you don't want your employees to access the data, so you will definitely set up, you'll place that in a different subnet entirely. This machines are in a different subnet, and you will not allow any machines to directly communicate, okay, with even with the databases and everything. But in most of the other scenarios you would see within your same network, you whichever machines you are creating can communicate with each other. And I want to bring one more scenario here is, uh, if you create two different virtual networks, one is in central India and one is in South India. And now, when you create two different virtual networks, do they communicate with each other? The machines within one network can communicate with another network? No. Every network is own secured network and they are not linked to the other networks. They are. But if you wanted to communicate, what if you wanted to communicate? Now, if you wanted to communicate, we can use VNet peering. VNet peering is the service which is provided by Azure to ensure that you can establish the communication between uh, two networks in specifically with Azure only, Azure Virtual Networks. The only condition which Azure is saying that, which is again the is nothing but uh, the basics of communication. The IP address space of one virtual network should not overlap with another virtual network. So if I am choosing here 10.0.0/16, it means that the IP addresses which I will assign in this network is between 10.0.255.255. So uh, if the virtual machines, whichever I'm creating or whatever machines I'm creating, whether it's a virtual network or database or whatever it is, they should be within this IP addresses only, IP addresses range only. They would not be having any other IP address because this is the IP address space which we have chosen for this virtual network. Okay, now when you wanted a VNet peering to be happening between these two VNets, you need to ensure that the Azure only asks us you should not, your IP addresses should not be overlapping. It means that this should not be 10.0.0.0. This is actually 10.1.0.0. So this is accepted, but 10.0.0.0/16 or /24 between, you can't have the same IP addresses within this virtual network. Why? When you wanted to establish a communication between two machines, okay, or within a network when there are machines, no machine should have the same IP address of any other machine. Now, or the probability of a chance should not be even there, first of all, that a machine should can have a same IP address of a different machine. It should not be there. So the same thing Azure is saying, that when you wanted to connect two machines, please ensure that whatever IP addresses which you are having here, okay, you're going to assign to your machines, that should not have a possibility that there should be this machines also should not be having that same IP address. Now when I chose this is the IP address space of this, then I can connect my machines to this network. Why? Because if we right now see what all addresses we can actually give between these machines is 10.1.255.255. So no way when I connect the machines, they can have the same IP addresses, right? So when I connect these machines, it's 10.0.0 to 10.0. So, but this starts with 1.0.0 to 1.55, 255. So no way they can have. And now when I connect, this means that IP addresses are not overlapping and I can connect two virtual networks with each other. But if there is a chance of overlapping means a same IP, that is called technically in networking language as network overlapping. And if that is happening, then we can't connect. Otherwise, yes, we can connect to virtual networks. So let's first try these two examples in the scenario right now when we are trying to understand Azure. So I created a machine which is in East Asia location. Now I'll create one more machine 02 and I'll go for spot instance and I'm going to provide the password. Okay, this is in Central India. I want it in East Asia and it's in the same network and that's fine. Public IP is being given and I can go inside the management and I'll disable this. So what did I just do? I created two machines. One is VM and one is another is VM01 or VM02 with some name. VM02. Okay. One with VM, one with VM02. And I will wanted to prove here that within the same network they can communicate with each other. How can I prove that? I can prove that using ping request. So I'm doing that right now. Now, similarly, I created a network which is having two machines. I'll similarly create one more network with one machine and I'll do the VNet peering. Okay, so I'll go open another tab simultaneously and I'll click on virtual machines and I'll choose S India RG, S India VM01 and South India. And I go with networking and I allow this, disable basics. So this machine got created. Meanwhile, I'll go back to the virtual machines and I'll start this virtual machine which was stopped. Okay. Now these are in two same virtual networks. So how can I check that? If I ask for uh, so if I see the two VNets, there is two VMs, VM02 and uh, this one, and list view. I wanted to remove this most of these things. One is operating system. I don't want operating system. I don't want size, and I don't want disks. It's easier to right now see and view that, right? So I have three VMs right now. One is two VMs are in East Asia location, and they are in the same VNet. One has public IP address, one doesn't have a public IP address, and a South India. If you see in South India, there is a public IP address. Now I don't have a VM with this. I don't have a public IP address for this VM. I didn't attach it. It's fine. But I will first log in using this public IP. I will log in from my machine. So I'm logging in from my desktop to a machine which has public IP. And because it has a public IP and I'm connected with internet, and because that public IP is connected with internet, I can come, those both machines are in internet, so I can, if I have the credentials, appropriate credentials, I can actually access this machine. So I'm going to do the same thing right now. I'm going to copy this public IP address and I'm going to open PowerShell, and when I choose a PowerShell, I will choose strainer and I give this. So from my machine, I'm connected with trainer VM02, right? Otherwise I'll clear the screen, and if you see, I'm in trainer VM02. That means from my machine, when I connected with the VM02, because it's have a public IP and I have a public IP, I successfully connected. Now I'm inside this machine. If you see, I'm inside this machine. Right now, whatever I'm doing, going to run commands, I'm running in the commands in this. Now I'll try to ping from here to a VM. If I go, what is the VM's private IP address? We are, as they are in the same network, the private IP address of a VM, we see it is 10.0.5, and VM02, the private IP address is 10.0.6. Okay, now I'll go and copy this. Okay, and from VM2, I'm gonna communicate with VM1. And how am I going to do it? I'm going to just ping, and ping is just to go and do a ping request. Now if you see, it is going and sending a request, and when ping should say, okay, I transmitted it, you acknowledge that you have received it, and send me acknowledgement that you have received it. So it sent a ping request, and it took 1.08 milliseconds to get a response back that yes. So if you see, 9 packets transmitted, and it has get acknowledgements from the other machine. So VM02 has sent a ping request to VM, and they responded back saying that, yeah, I received your packets. So ping is actually that. Though we use ping so often that to understand that we are communicating with the other machine. Okay. And so for that, what we have to do, we have to just give the IP address of that machine. And if you understand why did we give private IP address specifically, this both machines are in same virtual network. Now, when I wanted to communicate with this, I have to know this IP address, right? And that is nothing but the virtual network. In the private virtual network, what is the address? So that's why in Azure, I specifically went to private IP address, and I just copied that and I started pinging that virtual machine alone, and it is successful. Now I'll try to similarly do as India VM01, and if you see private IP, and it is 10.1.0.4. Now I'll try to do ping.10.1.0.4. Do you think the ping request will go? No. See, I was able to get all these responses because it was sending the packets and it's getting the acknowledgements. But if you see right now, 10 packets transmitted. Here, 9 packets transmitted, 9 received. But it is didn't even get one acknowledgement. The packets are going somewhere, but it is they are not knowing. So it is not even going to the machine because machine the network is not aware of this IP address. That's it. And the machine is not aware of any machine having an IP address in that virtual network, and that is why it was not there. Then, so this is a scenario. It's actually the VM in one region is not able to communicate with another VM in another region. Now, if I wanted to establish a communication, that is where I use VNet peering. To use the VNet peering concept, you first have to go inside one virtual network. So I'm going to search here virtual network, and you see the virtual networks, and I just clicked on it, and these are the two ones, which is my VNet, my VM VNet, and South India RG VNet. So I'm going to copy, choose, I can choose either of these virtual networks, and you can go inside here, you can choose peering. So just it's a highlighting, guys. Peering is the one. If you go in under the DNS servers, you will be seeing peering, and this is the one you can choose either of the VNets. You need to go specifically to one VNet. You can go to this VNet, and you can choose peering, or you can go and choose peering in this VNet. And I click on add here. So I'm establishing a peering link. And as I'm right now in South India VNet, so I'm going to say that peering link from S India to uh, East, that is East Asia VNet, na? And similarly, this so I'm creating one link. A link is nothing but this is one link. Similarly, I'll create one link from this to this. So if we go back here, that is one reading link, and I have another peering link. Name is peering link from East Asia to South India. Okay, and I'm choosing the virtual network here, and I have to choose my VM unit. Okay, because I'm already South India from South India VNet. I'm at the South India VNet, na. So already it is aware of that it has to connect South India VNet to, but which VNet? So I wanted that peering link to be to my VM VNet, and click on add. So one peering link has created from South India to East Asia, and similarly, if you go into my VNet and you refresh this, one link from East Asia VNet to South India VNet has been uh, set up. Now let's wait for a couple of minutes for this peering status to be set as complete, and that will happen. But right now, if I try pinging 10.1.0.4, as previously it was not allowing, the packets were not there because it was not able to communicate. But if you see right now, I click on enter, it should be a position to allow it. And now you see It took some time for the updation to happen, but after that it was, so 14 packets have transmitted and 9, so during that 5 times still the connection has not been established. But if you see right now, we will be seeing the 100% packet receival. 6 packets transmitted, 6 received, 0 packet loss. During that time, the connection was not been established yet, so it's still updating. Right now, if you see, it should be connected. Yeah. So this is how in your organization you will use VNet peering. Is it so often used? Yes, it's so often used in your organization because VNet peering is more economical compared to uh, the other options which we have to connect VNets, virtual networks. So is this the only option? No, yes, this is not the only option, but is the preferred option and economical option. The other option which we have is connecting two networks using virtual network gateway. And we'll get into that one in the later parts of section because they're a bit advanced and we need to specifically be aware of virtual networks. And during the networking topics which we encounter, there I would give you a brief discussion about that. But here we are only focusing about how we can communicate VMs from one network with a VM in another network. That's why I brought this specific concept in VM concepts only. And so remember that when you wanted to peer, the most important thing is the IP addresses should not be overlapped. What is meant by overlapping? That one virtual network, if they have any, what these are the probability of the IP addresses, and these are the probability of IP addresses for this virtual network. They should not be the same at any point of time. Okay, and that is only when you can VNet peering will be established. Otherwise, VNet peering will fail. And first of all, it shows that you can't peer that virtual network because they are or IP addresses are overlapping. So even that message could be shown. And how do you establish peering? You go into a virtual network, you select a peering option, which you see under the DNS servers in the settings category, and you click on add, and you mention a peering link name. One peering link name is for this, and one peering link name for this. And so I just named the similar way, one from India, South India to East Asia, and other link East Asia to South India. And you provide it and select the virtual network which you wanted to connect with, and you click on add, and you try ping request. So if you see from VM02, I'm able to do it. Now let me try the same thing from South India. So I'll connect from South India machine. So this one is in East Asia, na? So I'll connect from this and I'll see. So this is still from my desktop. I'm trying to connect to this machine, and it was possible because both are in same net. This machine is having a public IP, and I'm having an internet. I'm also connected to internet, so we are able to connect with each other. Now I sent a request and it worked here. So similarly, what is the IP address of VM02? It is 10.0.0.6. I'm talking about private IP address. I'm not talking about public IP address because all when we talk about virtual networks, they are private address space. So I have to specifically, in terms of private address space, I have to talk about those things. So I go into virtual machines and look at their private IP addresses. This is 10.0.5 and this is 10.0.0.6. So I right now from South India VM01, I am trying to ping the machine VM02 and it was working. There is 5 packets transmitted, 5 received. Now I'll try to ping VM, okay, East Asia VM, and that is also working. And now, mm, what else? Yeah, so their communications between the machines are working out. Now we achieved this scenario, we achieved this scenario. I proved that within this both VMs we can communicate with each other. How? If you have seen this, the first one which I have did is I was in VM 02, which is having the IP address as 10.0.0.6. I communicated with a VM, East Asia VM, which is having the private IP address. So I sent a ping request and it worked. So we achieved these two scenarios. Try practicing this, and if you have any doubts, let me know in your comments.